Welcome to the Indie Author Showcase, the podcast by indie authors for indie authors. I am your host, multi-award-winning indie author Chad Robert Morgan, and let's get into it. So obviously we missed last week on the podcast. That's my fault. I have been busy trying to get through the next book, and I was a little behind. So I didn't have a book prepared, so we skipped a week. Plus I've been really busy. Having to drive a little bit of extra to make a little bit extra money because I got a new car coming in because I got the old car and it's about ready to fall apart. And the wife is getting a little upset that I'm using her car to drive Uber. So I'm finally getting my own EV so I can drive Uber and run my own car into the ground. So, but did finish the book, finished the next book, so I have very few excuses for the next couple weeks. That's the good news. So, I have not received a lot of comments on the actual podcast itself, but I have received quite a few comments from the last episode, which was our interview with Jennifer Milne, on the shorts. Now, again, I've covered this before, but apparently the information is not getting out there. If you're seeing me like this, on your phone, on TikTok, or Instagram, or whatever, these are clips of the larger podcast. Okay? So, what I do is I do the podcast, I run it through a program called Opus Clip, which uses AI. We'll get to that in a minute. And it reformats it and cuts it down for the socials and then automatically uploads it. So, there's a few comments that basically was because the clip was a little out of context. So, they missed a little bit. Some of it was making a comment that was kind of nullified in the next sentence, but it wasn't in the clip, that kind of thing. So again, the purpose of the clips is to convince you to try out the podcast. If you're seeing me in this format, right? Check out the podcast. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Podbean. There's plenty of places to find us. Okay? With that said, I did want to talk a little bit about some of the comments that we got on the clips. And most of the comments, of course, revolved around everybody's favorite topic, AI. Now, so one of the comments was, if you won't let AI touch your actual writing, why would you let it touch your art cover? This was in response to Jennifer Milne saying her original cover was at least in part AI generated. Now, full context of the conversation, she said she wasn't happy with that decision. She was kind of arm twisted into that decision, regretted it, and now the book is being relaunched with 100% human hand-drawn art, both in the cover and inside the book, right? So, to be clear, Jennifer Milne is, her book is now 100% no AI. Okay? That's point one, and we need to clarify that. Because people are kind of into hanging people that use AI. Heaven forbid. That's point one. Point two is I think it's kind of a false premise, right? If you won't use AI in your writing, why would you use it in the cover? You do know that writing and drawing are two different skill sets, right? Like, I'm much better writer than I am an artist. I mean, Stephen King is not designing his own book covers. If you are an artist working on your book and you're trying to finish it and get a nice cover, it may seem like an easy answer, right, to get that done. Now, the counter argument to that, and I believe Jennifer Milne made this point, and I think it's a really strong point, is as a reader, as a consumer, right, if you're looking at the book and you see an AI generated cover, how are you to trust that the prose is not AI generated? Right? If you're going to use AI in one, why would you not use AI in the other? Now, for me as a writer, I have been very vocal and open about my AI usage. I do write without AI, but then I do let the AI read it and give me feedback. Some of the feedback I think is valid, some of it I think is BS, and it's up to me as the writer to choose. The same way that I would require feedback from an editor or a beta reader, right? And I try to get as much human involvement as possible. For me, the AI is to help support me when I have a lack of human support. But I still try to get as much human support. But I offer my stuff for friends to read. I offer my stuff um, to an editor before I do the final edit myself. To me, the final edit is when I record the audiobook, right? Because as you're reading, you're reading every single word. It kind of forces you to check every single word, and that to me is the final edit. There's sometimes when you're reading something, it's grammatically correct, but it just sounds off to the ear and that kind of thing. But before that, I hand it off to another person to edit, to check my grammar, my spelling, and everything like that. So having AI do a pass is just that. It's another pass, right? Because I've gotten stuff back from a human editor that missed things that I've caught. I've had things that go through me, through the audiobook, through the editor, and there's still the occasional spelling error or stuff like that. So anything that I can do to make the book more professional, more solid, more uh, final, right? Anything to weed out any more missing commas or missing apostrophes or misspelled words or anything like that, I'm using it, right? Now, again, like I said, I don't rely on AI as the end all be all. I don't feed it AI and it comes back and go, oh, I must be done. No, I still go to a human afterwards. It's just another pass. It's just another filter. Um, and I don't actually use it to write the story for me. I don't go, hey, make the ending for me. No, I don't do that. But again, writing is a different skill set than the cover. And as a writer, you may not have the skill set. You may not have, like, I'm fortunate enough that I have coworkers that are artists that I can go to for help. Not every author has that. Um, so that's just to answer that comment. Um, so to summarize, one, Jennifer Milne's book is being re-released with all hand-drawn art, no AI. Two, why would you use AI for the cover if you're not using it to write with? Because you're a writer and not an artist. And three, I do think the comment is fair that as a reader, as a consumer, if you see AI art on the cover, what is to ensure you that there's no AI in the prose? So it does behoove you as an author to not use AI in your cover for that reason, right? I think that's the strongest argument right there. One thing I did want to say about that, though, is that it's really difficult to have no AI in your cover. And what I mean by that is even Photoshop right now has things like generative fill, content aware fill, that kind of thing, that is AI, right? Like it's taking your image and it's extrapolating your image. So the AI is building it off of your existing art, but it's still AI. It's still not you hand drawing the pixels. You know what I'm saying? So, and I've had this conversation before where we're watching a video, a bunch of people are talking about, oh, AI videos are horrible. They're, AI is bad and everything like that. Well, I use that content aware fill in Photoshop. Oh, no, but that's fantastic. That works. So there is that weird line that we're drawing, right? This AI is bad. This AI is good. Um, I think that comes down to the crux of AI. We don't want AI to do it for us. We want it to be tool that helps us, but not a big red easy button that does it for us. And I think that's where the line is drawn. Now, this is something that I'm kind of arguing with myself because I did a quick mock up in Maya. Now, Maya is a 3D modeling program. I made some very basic shapes to basically say, okay, this rectangle here is going to be the spaceship. This cone is going to be the big net thing that's being cast over it, yada, yada, yada. Put some simple colors on it. And I had a simple, very, very like even Roblox looks way more high tech than this image. But I fed that to the AI and say, using this as a guide, can you generate a cover? Now, the idea behind that was to mock it up so I can then go to one of my artist friends and say, okay, this is what I had in mind. Can we make this? And in the end of the day, what happened was our artist friends went, well, this actually is pretty good the way it is. Let me do some tweaks. And so they took the elements in Photoshop, they pulled this here, they added some glow here and everything like that. And what we got at the end of the day was a pretty damn good cover. Now, I'm not calling it final, and I'm not saying that's the final decision, but my problem is back to that thing that Jennifer Milne mentioned, which is if AI is on the cover, how is the reader going to trust there's no AI in the book? And at what point is it no longer AI? Like if AI generated the images, but then I took them into Photoshop and I moved them around, if I had a basic image that I fed to AI, at what point is it just AI created versus AI assisted? Is AI assisted okay? Where are the lines? How far can we push this? How much are we allowed to use before we've crossed that line? That's part of what I'm arguing with the cover of my next book. I don't really know. I just know that I want my audience to be confident that when they're getting a book, it's written by me. And again, as I've said before, I'm very open and honest about my AI usage. I'm very upfront about it. It's not writing the book for me, but I do use it as a editing tool and as a kind of a feedback tool as a beta reader. I think that's fine. But what are your thoughts? How do you feel? Another comment that we got was the use of water. And this is always something that kind of confused me a little bit, and I had to research this. So these data centers, so if you don't know, if you're generating AI, whether it's an image or just a query request or a video, somewhere in the world, there's this huge bank of computers that have all these chips in them. Typically, they're NVIDIA chips that are, in fact, typically, I think they're almost exclusively at this point, NVIDIA chips. Basically, the same chips that are in your graphics card that basically do all the computations, all the math, and everything like that. There are some controversies over these data centers. One is that they eat up a lot of power. The second is their use of water, and this is the part that I got a little bit confused about. Now, my PC, just as a comparison, is liquid cooled. Okay, I'm not wasting water. It is a closed loop. It is very similar to the way a traditional automobile cooling system works, right? The water, the heat passes to a metal barrier that the water goes over. The water carries the heat away, goes to a radiator where it's basically piped down to these really thin um, uh, pipes. That's your radiator, right? And the idea is that you're maximizing the volume, surface volume of the water by putting them through all these really thin, you know, you know, uh, pieces of pipe. And the air, and there's a fan that basically blows the heat off it, and that cools the water before it goes back for another round and picks up more heat again. So I'm hearing about all this water usage, and I'm like, why are we burning water? I mean, my PC doesn't do that, my car doesn't do that. Is this correct? So I looked it up, and the answer is, are we wasting water with these huge data centers? And the answer is sometimes, which is not a good answer. Short answer is some of these data centers do have closed systems, like your car radiator or my PC. A lot of them do not. Okay, they instead of blowing the fan to get the heat off, they just let the water evaporate, which means that the water has to be refilled, and that uses water. Others will run it through like they'll have a constant source where it comes through, pipes through, and just pipes back out again. And then sometimes those systems will pipe in a bunch of chemicals into the water to make sure it doesn't corrode the metal as it's running through. And since it's an open system, it pipes those chemicals back out into the water, which contaminates it. So there's multiple ways to cool these systems off, and some of them are very wasteful. Now, why would they do that? Well, money. It costs less power to let the water evaporate than it does to pump it through a radiator, run a fan, and then pump it back again. Um, Sometimes it's an efficiency thing, like maybe those radiators can't cool it fast enough, or whatever. Um, but yeah, open systems are not good, right? I agree with that. That's bad, right? That's wasteful and potentially environmentally damaging, right? The only problem is that when you do a query in ChatGPT, you don't know what data server it's going to, whether it's one that is on a closed system or an open system or whatever. I do, however, think that there is a bit of a hypocrisy about this. Now, I'm not saying that to belittle the argument. I do think it is important when it comes to these data centers that we hold their feet to the fire and say, no, this cannot be environmentally hazardous, right? We can't be dumping chemicals into the water supply. We can't be, burning water when there's a closed system that could also work, especially when some of these data centers are in very remote areas that may not have a lot of good access to water. So they're burning what little there is in the area. But when you start complaining about water usage or power usage when dealing with AI, keep in mind that if you're watching this video on YouTube or Spotify right now, that's from a data center. If you are watching an hour of HD video, not 4K, just HD video, that is anywhere from 100 to 500 milliliters of water. Okay? If you are generating a single AI image, that generates, and again, we're assuming it's an open system, which is evaporating, you're talking 15 to 500 milliliters of water per image. So, worst case scenario to worst case scenario, your single AI image generated is equivalent to an hour of watching video on YouTube. I don't hear a lot of people complaining about water usage when they're watching Netflix. And again, I am not saying this. I mean, if you're streaming 4K video, you can be burning about 1 to 2 liters per hour. Now, again, I'm not saying that the argument isn't valid. Okay, I think it is valid. But I do think that if you're really concerned, if you're like, we should ban AI because we're wasting water, well, then start banning your Amazon Prime subscription as well, if you really care about it that much. I do think that it is an issue that we need to bring up. It's an issue that we need to push on those that are running data servers of all kinds, that they need to be as environmentally conscious as possible. But I think we need to be a little, we tend to do that as people. We pick and choose our outrage, right? This came up with the Shy Girl controversy. It's like, okay, well, we're picking on this woman who apparently wrote a book using AI, which again was not really proven and was a bit of a controversy. But we had another author who freely admitted that he used AI in his book, and he gets a free pass. We're talking about AI generation for our book covers, and oh, but that's burning so much water. Well, so it's watching this video on YouTube. So where's the outrage for that? And I think we need to be outraged for both. To be honest, I'm fine being angry about it. I'm fine saying AI is bad, but streaming is also bad, and all these servers are burning water and electricity, and we need to do something about it. But let's just be uniform in our outrage and uniform in our consternations and uniform in our actions. Let's not just pick on AI when the streaming is also now. In all fairness, AI is more expensive than streaming in the short term, right? But you're more likely to be streaming videos than you are generating AI constantly. But I don't know, maybe not. Maybe you're one of these AI filmmakers and you're just constantly burning your credits and everything like that. Um, maybe the AI generation outperforms the video streaming, but I know me personally. I mean, I'm usually working and I got a video running, and I'm watching something. That video's got to come from a data center, and that data center is not that different than an AI data center. It's got CPUs and churning data, and it's generating heat, and it also needs to be cooled off. So I just wanted to bring that up because, again, I think the outrage is selective, and it should be uniform. We should be mad at all data centers, not just the ones that are generated stupid cat memes, um, but all of them. And we should fight to make them as environmentally uh, sound as possible, if that makes any sense. Those were most of the comments that we got. Again, we broached the AI subject. We knew we were going to get comments on it. We got comments on it, and I wanted to answer it. Not that this is an AI. In fact, just recently, Hassan Minaj did a video on YouTube where he was interviewing uh, this woman who wrote a book about AI, and she was answering to the water problem and the power problem and everything like that. Fascinating video. You should check that out if you're really interested in the AI thing. I always wonder when I am making something, whether it's a video or a video game, or if I go see a movie, if the cost in making that, even printing a book, still requires paper, it requires power, it requires fossil fuels to ship the book. What is the environmental impact of me selling a book? What is the environmental impact of me going to see Spider-Man Brand New Day? Right? Because they use data centers to generate all the images for those special effects as well. So if we're upset that AI burns a liter of water an hour or whatever, should we also be upset over Marvel for the CGI images that they made in their movie? Whenever we build or make anything, We are creating waste. Where do we draw the line? At what point is the waste acceptable? I think it comes down to what we get out of it. I mean, if we're burning down a rainforest so we get a meme of cats playing piano, it's not worth it. We get Avengers Endgame. Okay, we might be able to burn a tree or two. You know what I'm saying? It seems to be where we are. And again, I'm not bringing, and I've said this like 5 times. I'm not bringing this up to belittle the argument. I think the argument is valid. I just think we're being selective about who we're mad at when AI is doing this. And AI may be doing it worse, but AI is doing this, but so is your YouTube video or your Netflix video or your Spotify stream. They may not be as guilty, but they're still guilty of doing the same crime. So, yeah, let's ease up on the outrage a little bit and apply it more evenly and uniformly, and demand that these data centers are respecting our power and water usage a bit better across the board. That's my argument. This is not the AI podcast. This is the Indie Author Showcase podcast. So let's get off the topic of AI and let's talk a little bit about this week's book. So this was on sale. I actually bought the entire series. Now I've only gone through the first book. I did dip into the second book a little bit. I will discuss that in the showcase. But let's talk about All Dead by T.W. Brown. So again, I got this on Audible. It was on sale. I started enjoying this right off the bat. This is a zombie apocalypse through and through. In the first book is the beginning of the apocalypse. So unlike other zombie apocalypses where we get thrown in the middle of this thing, we're there from the very first outbreak where several people are kind of figuring out, dude, this is a real zombie apocalypse. Let's go a little bit from the blurb on the webpage. The Dead Walk. Welcome to the world of T.W. Brown's Dead Saga. This raw, violent, and brutal world isn't populated with military supermen and women, or preppers that have been waiting for the human extinction to arrive. This is a world of normal people, some good, some bad, and some pure evil. This is a global look at the end of the world. Follow Steve and his group as you see the apocalypse unfold through a single person's eyes. With the geeks, you meet 4 young men who thought a zombie apocalypse would be cool, and quickly discover it isn't. In the vignettes, you will get short glimpses of the state of the world, the state the world has fallen into. Some will only be a single offering. Others might stick around for a while, but be rest assured, nobody is safe. So let's start with what I like about it. First of all, this is a good, solid zombie apocalypse, right? If you're into The Walking Dead or Night of the Living Dead, anything by George Romero, this book is for you. This is good, solid zombie apocalypse stuff. I got the audiobook, very well narrated, very well written, all around. Yeah, no, I mean, horror's my bag. I dig a good zombie apocalypse if it's done well. A lot of zombie apocalypse books are not done well. This one, I remember there was one. Speaking of the preppers, there was a whole series, and I got the first book, and I got turned off over the first chapter because it was like the guy was like a prepper, and like zombies are coming like, oh, let's grab the shotgun. We're ready for the. I mean, it's totally skipping through the whole, you know, it went straight to acceptance on this thing, and I'm like, oh, okay, no, put that away. This is crap. There's been another zombie apocalypse books that I read where, um, like the guy was on a boat, and like the apocalypse is pretty much already had started, right? This is like 6 months in, and then like he finds his parents at home and they're just fine, and I'm just like, oh, come on, man. No, no, this is good old fashioned Romero shit right here, right? This is not pulling any punches. This is brutal. I mean, there is some brutal stuff that happens in this book, and not just from zombie bites. Anybody who knows anything about a zombie apocalypse movie or series or whatever knows that the one thing about zombie movies is it shows you that the monster, the worst monster, is usually not the ones that are the undead. It's the other people. Because when society breaks down, assholes get to be assholes. There is, just as a trigger warning, there is one character who is, um, how can I say it without getting demonetized? Uh, he is, he deserved to be on the, one of the guys redacted from the Epstein files, if you know what I mean, right? Like, he is that kind of person who's doing that kind of bad thing, and he habitually breaks down a woman's will, kind of dominates him, and when he gets tired of him, he lets the zombies have him, and then he goes on to the next one. And in the book, we meet him finding his next victim, this girl that was about like 18, 19 years old. Um, and it's not graphic in the violence, but it is still heartbreaking and gut wrenching, because even though we don't see the acts of violence, we see the aftermath. And that in itself is dark enough. Like, we don't actually have to see the blow by blow to know what happened and to know how horrible it is. Um, so yeah, T.W. Brown is not holding back. This is not like a Disney version of a zombie apocalypse where everybody's fine and they start singing afterwards or anything like that. This is very much like Walking Dead type stuff. This is raw, it's hardcore, and it's not pulling any punches. So let's talk about a little bit about didn't work for me in this book. Uh, I kind of got to pick at the margins on this because there wasn't a lot that did not work for me on this book. I got to be honest with you, but there was two things that stood out. One is your main character is told from a first person perspective. Then we would go to these little vignettes, as it mentioned in the blurb, where we're seeing other groups, and some of them are like one-offs. Some of them become their own storyline. Some of them become their own storyline that intersects with the main storyline, and then they peter off and everything like that. I'm not sure why we had to do the main storyline in first person when so much of the book is in third person. Like the first person stuff, yeah, it's fine, it works, it's great. The third person stuff, again, it works, it's great. Why we're doing both in the same book? I mean, again, once you kind of understand what he's doing and you get into it, it works. I'm fine with it. It wasn't a big deal, but it just was one of those little head scratchers where why don't we just do all this in third person and be done with it? The only other complaint that I had about the book, and we talked about this in the last book we reviewed, this this just stops. I listened to a little bit about book two just to kind of see. It literally picks off like on the next page. Like it's talking about these vignettes, right? You got main story, then the next chapter is vignette 1. Got some main story, vignette 2, yada yada yada. First chapter in the second book, vignette 7. Like they didn't even restart the count. We're just boom. We didn't even pause. We pick up right where we left off. There's no, it hasn't been 3 months later, hasn't even been 3 minutes later. Why did he stop where he did at book 1? I think it's pretty much arbitrary. This is a 12 book series, and I get the feeling that you're supposed to read all 12 books as one huge book. That was his intention. Which again is not necessarily a bad thing. It is just a writing style I don't particularly enjoy. I don't do that. I think you're I like to write them like Marvel movies, right? You start the movie, you have a beginning, middle, end, and then maybe at the end, maybe a little bit of a teaser for what might happen in the next episode. Because anybody that knows anything about Marvel movies knows that sometimes those end credit scenes never pay off, right? Like whatever happened with Tony Stark talking to General Ross about the Avengers Initiative, right at the end of Hulk. Nothing. They actually had to play that off in a one-off, in a one-shot, to explain that how that didn't go anywhere, right? So, but I think that's a little bit more forgivable because it's just this little bitty bit at the end, and then if it doesn't pan out, it's left to your imagination at that point. Yeah, like I said, it's just a style I don't particularly care about or particularly care for, and when it just stops, I'm like, ugh. But those are the only two things in what is otherwise a fantastic zombie apocalypse story. If you are a Romero fan, if you are into Walking Dead, this book is for you. Get the entire 12 book series on Audible. Listen to it all as one big, giant 130-hour book. And you should be one happy zombie listening to mofo right there. I'm telling you. So that's it for this week. My time is still not my own. I am very busy this week and very busy next week. I have nothing planned until September 29th when I will be at Sinister Book Fair in Sacramento. Until then, I'm going to be working very hard because I got no money, which is where you right there, can help. How can you help make sure that I am not working 5 jobs? I mean, I'm already up to about 4 if you count the podcast. Writing, podcasting, my day job, and Uber. So I'm at 4 right now. Help me not have to work 5. How can you help? You right there. You. How can you help? Number 1, like and subscribe to the podcast. If enough people are watching this podcast, maybe, just maybe, one of these days, I could get some sponsors. And then they will help pay for the podcast, and I don't have to work so hard. I don't have to be driving till 2 o'clock in the morning and then waking up for my day job. And it doesn't cost you anything to like and subscribe. If you like the podcast, let your friends know. Don't cost you nothing. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that share button. It don't cost you nothing. Number 2, you can go and get awesome SpectralLink production merch at our store, shopspectralink.com, where you can get stuff from the Indie Author Showcase as well as any number of my books. We have 3 currently. We have 3 horror stories, 3 tantalizing tales to tempt you with. We have The Last Rite. We have the multi-award winning winner, The Baby Eater. And then we have the book of the year for audiobook reviewer, Beer. That's 3 tales of terror to tempt you with. If you are a younger reader, we have Short Bites Volume 1, winner of 2 audiobook audiobook reviewers awards. If you are, I'm not really into horror, we have our raunchy sci-fi comedy, Intergalactic Space Force. What would happen if the guys from South Park wrote Star Trek episodes? That's my interpretation. Check them out. Read the books. If you like the books, get the t-shirts, get the mugs, get the backpacks, get the beach towels, the blankets. It's all there, and it's cool crap. Almost all of our stuff is printed from Printful on demand. The only thing that is not from Printful are the books themselves. They're from Lulu, if you order them directly from our website, and our 3D sculptures, which I do myself in my garage. Everything else comes directly from Printful. It's high quality stuff. I mean, look at this shirt. This shirt was from like my first SIGGRAPH, right? In 2022. Look how well this shirt is holding up. Right? This is a 4-year-old shirt. It looks almost brand new. That's the quality of stuff you're getting from Printful right there. On top of that, we do have a Patreon. You can join the Patreon. Personally, I think you would do better if you bought some from our store, because at least that way you have some cool shit that you can wear. But that's just me. Whatever you can do to help support the podcast, to help support the starving artist. So I can drive less and write more. That would be fantastic. That would be wonderful. Please support the podcast. Like and subscribe. Share. If you like what you're seeing, check out the books. If you like the books, get some of the merch. You'll look cool. People will start asking, hey, that's a cool shirt. What is that? And then you can tell them, and then I might get some more fans. I might get some sponsors, and I might not have to drive till 2 o'clock in the morning every night. Please, help a brother out. I am done begging for now. I will see you next week, and until then, keep on reading.